From the first two chapters of this book, I don't like her at all.
What's not to like?
Well,
for you,
the first story that she tells in chapter 1 about micromanaging her son's prom experience made me insane. Like, what is wrong with this woman?
Okay.
Welcome to the Mindfully Masculine podcast. This is Charles, and today Dan and I are diving into the Let Them theory by Mel Robbins. We're starting with chapters 1 and 2, where Mel micromanages her son's prom, gets left out of a girls' trip, and somehow decides that this all adds up to a self-help book. I've got thoughts. Strong ones. Dan's here to defend her, or at least try, and we're unpacking what it really means to let them without becoming a doormat or a control freak. If you've ever been left off the group text and wondered, was it me? This episode's for you. Check out mindfullymasculine.com to find full audio and video episodes and anything else we got going on. Thanks and enjoy. First episode, discussing the Let Them theory by Mel Robbins. Have you read this whole book?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have not yet. You know how I frequently mention that The Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before is our only book where I've not jumped in with a bunch of criticism? It remains alone.
Okay. All right. I'm curious to hear. All right.
These first two chapters, man, would you describe Mel Robbins as likable, unlikable, or somewhere in the middle?
I like her very much. I appreciate the way she breaks down concepts and makes them actionable. She tells good stories. She bases a lot of her information on people who are smarter than she is in scientific research. So, but I'm pretty familiar with a lot of her work already. So I definitely appreciate her. Yeah.
From her interviews I've seen and shorter clips on YouTube, I like her. From the first two chapters of this book, I don't like her at all.
What's not to like?
Well,
for you,
the first story that she tells in chapter 1 about micromanaging her son's prom experience made me insane. Like, what is wrong with this woman?
Okay.
So the big thing was she either picked out or created or bought or something a corsage for her son's date.
Even though he said not to.
And then when it's time to, I guess, drop him off or bring him to prom or whatever, even like the night of, he again told her not to. So she slips it in her purse and brings it with her anyway.
Just in case.
Right.
Yeah.
And springs it on the girl. And this isn't his long-time girlfriend. This is a girl he's just asked to prom.
Yeah.
He's
barely knows.
Right. And she springs it out like, oh, I brought this just in case.
And the kicker was the girl had made her own.
Yeah.
And she was so nice that she ended up saying, oh, I'll wear it anyway.
Right.
And at that point, Mel didn't feel good about that. If you remember, she recognized, okay, she made a mistake there.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you don't get points for feeling bad about something that people warned you not to do and you did it anyway. Right. And then it has a terrible result and then you feel bad afterward.
Listen. Yeah.
So then fast forward to chapter 2, she's telling this story about all of her girlfriends get together and go on this girls' trip. And at first she just notices a friend is on a trip and she's like, oh, that looks like fun. And then she starts going through the posts and seeing that a lot of her friends are all on this trip together and she's not.
Yep.
Then she gets into if they want to go on a trip without me, let them. That's fine. They can do that. They're allowed to, blah, blah, blah. And then she, in chapter 2, it's like, and then let me realize that, okay, I haven't really kept in touch with these people. I haven't invested in the friendship. So maybe they didn't even think of me. So they didn't decide to exclude me. I didn't occur to them because I haven't been investing into my friendships with them. And my reaction to that is, oh, wait a second. Maybe they did think of you. Maybe they didn't want the woman who insists on bringing the corsage to her son's prom. I'll take this on my... I get it. You and a bunch of our mutual friends got together and said, boy, it'd be really nice to go on a really chill, relaxing vacation where we can stay out late and dance and not have a bunch of political conversations and getting into fights about whether this senator should have done this or this president should have done that. That's going to be a really chill, relaxing time. I'm really looking forward to it. And somebody's like, hey, should we invite Charles? And the reaction was, did you not hear me describe the kind of vacation that I'm looking for?
Yeah. Right.
No, if we want this kind of vacation, the last person we want is Charles.
Yeah.
And then I heard about it or I saw a post about it, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. I get where they're coming from. But from where I'm at in this book so far,
Right.
she has not done any of the connecting of the dots to say, okay, maybe the way I show up to my friendships or my son's prom is the reason that my friends decide, let's not invite Mel if we want to have a good time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, those two stories together, so far she has not taken any ownership of the way I show up to my relationships might be the reason people don't invite me on group trips.
And you left out the other part of the prom when her son had just bought like brand new sneakers and wanted to go to, so it was right.
Years of the tuxedo. I hate the sun now too.
Right. Well, so right,
Oakley. His name is Oakley.
okay. So as he's known by Mel in this story, he wanted to go to also this really popular taco place where there's not a lot of people.
They didn't make any reservations.
They make it a reservation, and there's like 20 of them. Like all these kids are like 20 of them.
He says it's a taco stand with like 4 tables.
Right. And it's raining out, and she's just like, here, grabbing it. She's trying to give them umbrellas. She's trying to help all the parents are all freaking out. And she's like, we need to make reservations for them at a real place where they've got plenty of room. And her daughter, Kendall, goes, let them. It's not your prom, Mom. It's theirs. Let them do that. So she finally let go. That was the whole inspiration of the book. She finally let go and is like, all right, you're right. I'll let them do that. I'll let her ruin her shoes. I'll let them get soaked in the rain. I'll let them wait outside and not get food. She like let go. And that was the whole purpose of writing this book, was that's the lesson she learned. She ended up giving him $40 and said, have a good time. He lit up. They had a good time. He ruined his shoes and she was okay with it. So that was really an important lesson for her to learn at that point. So I think you'll I'm not going to plant anything, or too late, I guess, but I think you'll realize that she does realize the errors of her ways. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I mean, I'm doing a podcast, so I don't get to nail this book at the beginning, but I think other people,
I think you do, because it's your podcast. If you wanted to, you could.
I think other people may see the way that she is addressing some of these things. And like, look, if you find out that your friends have just gone on a vacation and they didn't invite you to go along with them, you have a few choices for how you can react to that. You can react to that by saying, okay, I'm a huge piece of shit. Everybody hates me. That's why they didn't invite me. Boo hoo hoo. I'm the worst. Yada, yada, yada. You could do that. Or you could say, oh, this doesn't affect me at all. They choose to have a vacation without me. That has 0% to do with me. That has nothing to do with me whatsoever. That's their choice, and that's completely fine. They can do that if they want to. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Or you can be somewhere in the middle that says, okay, yes, they're allowed to go on vacation without me. That doesn't make them bad people. That doesn't make me a bad person. However, what about the way I show up to these friendships may lead them to make the decision of, this might be more fun or just easier if we don't ask her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem like
that's a possibility.
She's only referenced the two extremes so far in chapters 1 and 2.
Right.
Of either I go into a shame spiral because they didn't invite me along, or them inviting me along has nothing to do with me. That's just a decision they made. Yeah. Where it seems like truth lives in the gray area in the middle, which is, yeah, they're allowed to not invite you along, but the decision to not invite you could have a lot to do with the way you choose to show up, like the way you choose to micromanage your son's prom experience.
Right, right. So have there been, I mean, I know when I was younger, there were a lot of moments where if I could go back, I would have told myself, let them do that. That's okay. Anything come to mind for you where you would have wanted to go back and go, hey?
Good question. Yes. I think so. I think there have been some situations like that. And I'm not saying there's not value to be had in this book. I'm sure that there is. And I'm sure that I'm going to stumble upon things that I really do appreciate and I can get some good stuff out of and that we can then pass along to our audience. However, one of the other things that's bothered me is she talks about discovering this let them theory.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
like, either give me the name of the person you got it from or admit that you made it up. You didn't discover this let them theory.
Well, I think what she claims was it came to her when her daughter Kendall told her about the son and his prom. Let them fuck up their shoes. Let them go in the rain. Let them starve and wait online at the taco place. That was what she's claiming as the discovery. So
yeah, there's somebody else out there who's claiming that she stole this idea from them.
oh really?
Yeah.
Who is that?
It's a poet that wrote a poem all about a poem called Let Them, about letting people make their own decisions, their own choices. And
I mean, listen. Yeah.
With the way the publishing industry works, again, I'm not saying there's not good stuff in here.
Yeah.
This feels to me like somebody came up with a title that could sell some books, and now, all right, we got the title that's going to work. We got the title that's going to move products. So now let's write the book around it. I think that's what she did, because it started as like a social media post. And I think her or somebody that works for her or with her decided, okay, this is a cash cow. Now it's time to milk it.
I mean, but there's good value in it.
There's good stuff that
I definitely got a lot of really good stuff out of it. A lot of practical ways to think about situations where you're feeling left out, when you're feeling that something is out of your control and you don't like it. So I know for me personally, I have tried to control other people and other things a lot in my life, like specifically probably around eating, like with my family.
Okay.
I've basically, but I know where that comes from. And it comes from me. I want the best for them. I want them to be healthy. For me, it's probably an overreaction because I'm being a type 1 diabetic. Things affect me a lot more than an average person who's not, right? So I have that built in me, and
Yes,
it was also imposed on me, and thankfully in a very strong way from my family and my doctors when I was really young, so that I could be as healthy as possible. And it was in a vein of caring. And so I kind of picked up that trait. And as an adult, I've definitely overstepped my bounds at times with my family and other people sometimes, where I've probably tried to control what they're eating, and in terms of made them feel bad about certain things or given them information they didn't ask for, right? So for me, I really could have used the let them theory back then, and when I was doing that more often, to just let them make those choices, let them eat. For me, a lot of this is, I translate this into letting other people, stop trying to control other people and let them make the choices that they want to make, right? Unless they're going to hurt themselves or somebody else, I think it's a good way to go about it.
Yeah. But that's where it gets kind of tricky, because it's very easy for you to tell yourself the story of, I have to intervene because they are going there.
And that's exactly what I was saying. Oh my God, you can't eat all that candy. You're gonna be killing yourself, kind of thing.
I mean, being type 1 diabetic, it's
but they're not
survival.
But that's it, right? But but that's an excuse, because they are not, right? And even if I eat all that candy, it's not going to kill me. It's not good for me. It's not going to kill me. For me, it's like my blood sugar goes too low. It goes too high. Nobody dies from a too high of a blood sugar. Over time, it's a slow death, but yeah. So for me, a lot of this came into, stop trying to control the uncontrollable, which is other people.
Right. And that is the recipe for a miserable life, right? If you spend all your time trying to control things that cannot be controlled,
it's like banging your head against the wall. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Bang your head against the wall, or just digging a hole in your yard and then filling it up, and then digging the hole and then filling it up. It's like you're doing nothing done, and you're spending all this time and effort on no result to show for it. And so, yeah, and that's certainly not a concept she's discovered. I mean, Buddhism, Stoicism, there's plenty of isms that have come upon this idea of, if you invest all your time in trying to manage the unmanageable, then you're going to just be miserable constantly. And there is value in saying people are going to do what people are going to do, and it's not my job to prevent them or control them or even guide them or help them. It's our job to give people the dignity of their own choices. And then we can decide which people we want in our lives based on those free choices that they're allowed to make.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know a lot of times I've shown when I care about somebody through trying to control them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's not like, I was kind of, oh, I know what's best kind of thing. And it's like, even if you do, or even if you've been proven right, it's just not the method to go about helping somebody or showing their care for them. So
it's a difficult position to be in especially when you see somebody making choices like, oh, I've been in your position. I've made the wrong choice you're about to make. Suffer the consequences. I've enjoyed the benefits of making the right choice where you are right now. And now I'm just going to stay quiet and watch and see what you do. That is a difficult position to be in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was you or somebody else I heard that from, which was a good way to approach that is to just offer them the suggestion that, hey, I've experienced something similar before, and just kind of put that out there and see if they bite and say, oh, okay, well, what did you do? Right. Allow them then to say, I do want advice, like, or no, I don't need it. I'm good. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, the problem with that I've experienced too is if you spent your entire relationship with someone conditioning them so that when you ask them if they want your advice, they feel like they have no choice but to say yes, then you're not really giving them the choice that it feels like you're giving.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of that has to do also, I mean, that's when you need to look back at yourself and go,
exactly.
How am I reacting when they choose to ignore my statement right there? Am I visibly making a fuss kind of thing?
Yeah. I think I've done that before where I've asked,
all right.
I've asked that too, but I've asked the question about, do you want my advice, in a way where I was basically setting the table so that they had no choice but to sit down and eat. Yeah. And
it's still their choice, but it's still their choice. I mean, you're right. You may have trained them.
It's better in the first way of just telling them what to do, whether they want to hear it or not.
Yeah,
but it's still not optimal. So, all right, let's pause for a second. I gotta pee.
Oh yeah. All right.
It's too much.
No problem.
Yeah. So the thing I wanted to see a little bit more or hear more from her, and I hope I do in the rest of the book, is whenever you're in a circumstance where someone is giving you treatment that you find uncomfortable or undesirable, I think that healthy and effective people do ask the question of, okay, how have I contributed, or to use the recent out, how have I set the table for the easiest choice they could make to be, let me exclude Charles, or let me ignore Charles. Let me not invite Charles because of how he is or how he is showing up. And again, I don't think the solution is to ruminate on that or to obsess over it or to feel terrible about yourself.
Yeah.
If you do get ghosted, if you do get broken up with, if your friends go on a trip without inviting you, there is a portion of that, again, that I think healthy, effective people do, where they say, okay, this stings a little bit.
Yeah.
What might I have done? What part might I have played in this result that I'm feeling uncomfortable about?
Yeah.
And so far, like I said, she seemed to, in the first 2 chapters at least, she's hit the extremes of either going into a shame spiral, I'm a terrible person, I'm a piece of shit, that's why they did it, that's why they treated me this way, to, if they want to treat me that way, they can treat me that way. That's fine. That's up to them. They can just do that. That has to do with them. Doesn't have to do with me. Where I want to see an approach in the middle where you're taking some accountability and some responsibility, where people react to what you bring to the table.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't just spin a wheel and decide how I'm going to treat Charles today.
Right.
There's going to be my past behavior is going to factor into this somehow.
Yeah. And I like that, because what you're reminding everybody of is that we need to get as close to reality as possible.
Exactly.
And to say that you've got no part in this decision or this situation, that's not reality. There is some sort of there is most likely some part of this that you did contribute to. And you need to at least recognize it and realize what that is and not just kind of put your head in the sand. Because a lot of times, like when I first read Let Them, I thought, oh, it just means fuck them, right? All right. And so that was my first reaction when I heard that. And then
Speaking of a book with a title, speaking of the title of the disease of the book, here we go.
So, and she does start to touch on that, is that there is something else that's needed, because it can lead you to a feeling of superiority and also isolation. So basically, if you're telling them, oh, well,
Stop it.
go ahead, let them. And at times throughout life, when I've done that, yeah, it's made me feel good in the moment, because I'm able to then release that anxiety and that from blaming myself to blaming somebody else, and that always feels good, And but it doesn't last very long, because you're like, oh, well, I'm still upset about the situation. Like longer term, it doesn't resolve anything.
Yes. In fact, I thought of an example of this, and I'm get a little political here. If you do the let them without the let me, the only people left in your life are going to be yes men and sycophants.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can see that in some examples in our own government.
Yeah,
For sure. If your attitude is, I am never going to admit to not knowing something, I'm never going to admit to needing experts who understand things I don't understand to fill me in, I'm just going to say, this is the line, and you parrot the party line, or else you're out of here. And then all of a sudden, any of the experts who might disagree with you, they work their way out of your inner circle, and all you get surrounding you are people that agree with you and tell you what you want to hear. And I would almost argue that being surrounded by people like that is more lonely than just being alone.
Well, see, here's the thing. It was like social media does that too. But the social media does that too. It feeds you what you're interested in, and to support you, whatever. So if anything,
and that could be why so many people who are obsessed with social media feel so bad about themselves all the time, because
maybe you
want to hear
a quick fix, right? It's a quick dopamine hit, but it's like long term, it's not going to build, I feel, a level of fulfillment.
So the let me part, which she spent more time on let them in the first chapter than she did on let me in the second chapter.
Yeah.
And so I'm anxious to hear more about the let me theory and exactly what that means to her and how she structures it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like, and I've experienced the end of relationships before, where I've taken the approach of, this is 100% my fault, and so I feel terrible about it. And the other side of, this is 100% their fault, so I feel cold and dead about it.
Right.
And neither one of those is a reflection of reality. And so neither one of those gives you the opportunity to feel like, okay, this is hard, but I've moved forward.
Yeah.
Like you don't get that feeling from either of those approaches of either it's all their fault or it's all my fault. Right. The only way that you can look at it and build upon your own health and your own well-being is to say, okay, this person and I built this relationship that eventually failed together, and we both played a role in making it into something that was not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
I got to learn about the parts that I brought to this relationship that didn't help it, that hurt it instead. I've got to learn about the things that I was attracted to in this other person that they brought that turned out to be not sustainable as well. And then I can move forward and hope to build on this foundation for my next relationship. But if you take an all or nothing approach to your personal responsibility, well, yeah, I mean, whether that's getting fired from a job, whether it's getting broken up with, whatever it is, if you take on the, either it was all my fault or this had nothing to do with,
neither of them are based in reality.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And so you're not going to be able to build on that to have anything valuable in the future.
No, because you're going to be building off of a false pretense. Right. If anything, if you're going to build at all from that.
Exactly. You're on a shaky foundation.
Yeah.
And so that was my only concern. And again, I'm open to the possibility. This is all stuff that I'm bringing into this book that she's not saying, but it did feel like the way she talked herself out of feeling bad about her friends going on the trip. I mean, she immediately went to, well, it's because I'm a workaholic. And the whole, I don't have the things in life because I'm a workaholic, is a little bit of a humble brag to feel better about yourself. Like, it's not, I don't have the friendships that I want because I'm a shitty friend and I'm annoying to people. Like, I can't set aside these awkward tendencies that make people uncomfortable. It's a lot easier to say it's because I'm a workaholic. I take my career too seriously. You know what I mean? Right. If you have to make an excuse like I have good friends, I work too hard and I value my career too much, or I spend too much time focusing on my family, so I neglect my friendships. So, like, all right, these are good ways to get yourself out of feeling a little bit of pressure.
So if you remember, she does talk about these people were friends where she was probably in full annoyance mode, like when she was younger, because she said, I knew them from, we raised our kids together. We spent weekends together. We had gone on double dates with our partners together, things like that. Right. So that was even before she discovered the let them theory. So she was probably in her full controlling crazy mode, and they were still friends with her at that point.
Okay.
So I think she might be right in terms of just she hasn't put her time and effort into the friendship. They already knew how annoying she was. According to you. That's how I'm taking it anyways.
Because
They full well know her personality, you know?
back to our last series, I'm thinking of Mel as the fourth friend on White Lotus that didn't get invited to go to Thailand. The three women who had at different points were all kind of annoying in their own way.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm imagining her as the fourth one who didn't even get there.
All right. Oh my God. Well, it's because she's a hard worker and she's a workaholic. So they knew she wouldn't have the time. So that's why she didn't go.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, I'm hoping that we can. The other thing I didn't like was the seesaw analogy.
Okay.
If you just do let them, then you find yourself up in the air looking down on your friends.
Right.
And the let me, I get the implication is, I guess, with let them plus let me, you find yourself more at an equilibrium. I don't know. I guess, yeah, if you're at the bottom of the seesaw looking up, that's you taking 100% responsibility for every bad thing that happens. And if you're on the seesaw looking down, that's you taking 0%. And so in the middle, you're at 50-50 or some realistic number where this is partly my fault, partly their choice. I didn't feel like she really completed the circle on that analogy to say, she only talked about being at the top or being at the bottom. And your relationships with other people are not a zero-sum game where there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like she really address the equilibrium where you can figure out a way to conduct your relationships where neither one of you is at the top.
Yeah.
And either one of you is butt on the ground.
Right.
There's a way to be in the middle, and I didn't think she spent enough time drilling that.
No, we're only 2 chapters in. So
Fair enough.
yeah. Give her a little more time.
I hope she revisits some of these things in a little bit more detail, but the seesaw analogy didn't ring true for me. Okay, so in chapters, I think 3 and 4 is what we're going to hit next, and that's where we talk a little bit about the stress you have in your life as a result of your need to control. Which, look, I'm looking for a book that tells me how I can let go of my impulse to control everything, because real control brings safety, and the illusion of control brings chaos, because at some point you're going to be confronted with the fact that you're not in control of the things you think you're in control of.
Yeah. And how do you deal with that?
And how do you deal with the shift of, okay, these are the things that I think I'm in control of, and then boom, surprise, you weren't really, this whole time you thought you were in control, you weren't in control. Now what are you going to do? And that can be a painful realization to experience.
Yeah. I'm interested I forget exactly if she gets into that. I'm sure she does, because that's it's totally coming up already in our minds just from the first 2 chapters. So I think she does.
His exposure and experience with Stoic philosophy too is, like at some point, if you insist on living this life where you're trying to control things that are uncontrollable, the fact that something is in reality not controllable, it's not going to come as a gentle whisper. It's going to be a brick that hits you in the head.
It can if you are clutching on to that control.
Right.
If you don't realize it on your own. I think right. It's kind of one of those things where right, like was it Of Mice and Men, where Lenny is holding the bird or whatever, and then or it was a mouse or a bird, mouse, whatever. Yeah, and he ends up like instead of holding it gently, right, he ends up crushing it, kind of thing. Right, same, I think same kind of concept.
For me as a control freak, and I'm probably speaking for some other control freaks out there, the subtle little hints that, hey, you might not be in control of this, we just ignore them. We steamroll right over them. It's only when we're confronted with evidence that we cannot deny that says, hey, idiot, you thought you were in control of this. Surprised, you never were. That's the only time, at least for me, that it really hits home. And I realize, okay, I was not in control of this. I've got room for improvement in these areas. And I'm hoping that Mel Robbins shows me some stuff that
Listen, I think we all do. I think we all go through phases of being controlling and trying to control things that we can't, and people that we can't obviously control. I mean, I think it's human nature. I don't think it's, yeah, it probably, I think, exerts itself in more in some people than others.
Right.
But I think for me, and I think the reason why this book was so popular is because everybody has those moments where we're just trying to control what is futile.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so we will pick up with the next couple of chapters next week. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it feels to keep going through it.
You too. All right.
All right. Thanks, Dan. We'll stop it there.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, that's it for this episode of Mindfully Masculine. We'll be back next week with chapters 3 and 4 of the Let Them theory, where Mel starts connecting some dots between control, stress, and what it's actually costing you. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you then.